That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Full Time, the sophomore film directed by Eric Gravel, which premiered at the 2021 Venice Film Festival in Horizon Sidebar. Music Box Films is releasing it February 3rd, 2023.
Do you know Eric's first film?
Crash Test LG? No, I have not seen that. But I am familiar with the lead star of this film, Laure, Calamy, who was just nominated for a Caesar for Best Actress in this performance. The film overall was just this week nominated for 4 Caesars, the equivalent of the French Oscars, of course.
Well, I thought this movie was excellent. The basic story is about a woman. She is raising her 2 children alone. Her ex-husband is not in the picture and not supportive in the period we see her in. She works as a maid at a 5-star hotel, but she's having financial issues. And during this period we meet her, she is attempting to apply for a job that's more in line with her skill set and education, because we find out she has a master's in economics. Unfortunately, the Paris public transit is on strike, so she's having a very difficult time getting around, and she's trying to juggle her work, daycare, and going to interviews. And it's almost like, I feel like it's constructed like a thriller.
Yeah.
Where she's trying to execute these things, and she's in dire straits because the bank is calling her about payment on her housing. The person providing her daycare is telling her I can't do this, you need to come get your kids. There are a couple of times when she gets stuck because she lives out in the country, and the commute to Paris, where she works and is trying to get new employment, is quite lengthy. So there are a couple of times when she has to stay overnight. But everything sort of culminates with sort of a fake ending where she is able to make it to
The second job interview.
To the second job interview for a position she really wants and needs. And she's told that she'll be contacted on the results of the second interview on this day, and she doesn't hear back. So she keeps calling them, and finally the person who responds to her says, listen, we only respond to positive replies by phone, so if you didn't get a call back, you did not get the position. And that also coincides with her getting fired from her job as a maid. So it's pretty devastating, and we see her kind of just take her toys and go back home. And then she's just sort of, we can see that her world's falling apart, but she's trying to spend time with her kids. So she takes her last few euros, and takes her kids to an amusement park. And it's kind of a sad scene, even though they're at a happy place, when her phone rings, and it's the hiring manager saying, hey, sorry I didn't get back to you. I was busy on an out of town work trip, but I wanted to let you know that you did get the job if you want it. Of course she says yes, and we see her crying with happiness. The end. I thought it was a really, really interesting way, because I know French cinema, because we just reviewed that movie with Léa Seydoux.
One Fine Morning, which I loved, yeah.
Which I also think is very well done. But, French cinema, as you were explaining to me, is known for sort of presenting sort of everyday life in a very authentic way.
And the trials and travails of the working class citizen, I think, are explicated quite often in mainstream French cinema.
And for what I've seen, I would agree, except that sometimes it's really not, I'd have to be in a mood, and everything has to be right for me to feel like I want to witness other people be miserable in their life. I can do that on my own. But in this one, I think it does a really fine job of blending the anxiety of this woman trying to make moves and do better and put out fires, that it really did feel thrilling.
Anxiety inducing, yes. I think the score by Irene Drezel, which is a first time score for this person, was also very effective.
It's uncomfortable to the point where it did feel at times kind of I wanted it to be over.
Yeah.
But yeah, the performance from the main character,
Laure Calamy, playing Julie Roy, who is probably best known as a mainstay in the series Call My Agent. But she's been around for 27 years, has a lot of great roles recently, including in a film I reviewed called My Donkey, My Lover, and I.
But there are so many moments I think people can relate to.
Yes.
And overall, I was left with this feeling of just how difficult life is for so many people, and we get ourselves into situations that we entered in good faith, you marry someone and have children because you love them and this is the life you want, and then things don't work out, and now your life is hard, which is not what you were envisioning when you made these decisions. And I also like that the film sort of, so easy to criticize people, like, because even in the film, they're telling her, well,
why don't you work closer to home?
why don't you work closer to home? And it's like, well, she has like aspirations, and maybe she likes being in Paris, and the commute is worth being in a place she likes.
And maybe she needs to be there to get back on track with her old occupation, which all of this energy is for something that is still beneath what she was doing before she had children and decided to live in this home, we're told, that was halfway distance between her, equidistant between her and her husband, her ex-husband's
and
place.
her job, yeah.
And so now she's just stuck. And it's so demeaning that the babysitter, who's this old woman, I've seen this 2 times now. I've come away with it not being mad at anybody. I can feel everybody's perspective. This older retiree that's watching the kids, that's kind of being impinged upon. Like, I can understand her frustration with this woman. I can understand her boss, Sylvie, played by Suarez, who's also very real in that I'm throwing you bones. We look out for each other, but ultimately I'm your boss, and there are ways that I will be punished that
I have a job to do.
But if you screw up, there will be ways that I'm punished that won't affect you, but you affect everything I do. It just feels so real and so distressing.
All of the ways that she tries to, she's hitchhiking, she's taking rides, she took a ride from a stranger who pulled up to her. She's hitchhiking, she's trying to get on the bus, the train. At one point, she rents like a moving van to try to get home. She has no money and she's spending all this money. There's a scene where she gets a call. Like, her work situation is such that she can't just leave. And so she has to pull all these shenanigans that ends up getting a new hire fired. It's just
a new hire that's in the same situation, a single mother with 2 kids. And
I did make a comment that, like, she stays running. We see this lady running a lot.
There's more running than in a Tom Cruise movie from this woman.
But again, what I was saying was that I think it does a good, because it's so easy to like criticize people, like, why don't you do that, why did you do this? And it's like, well, we all make decisions in good faith. Like, I didn't realize that this was going to happen, but now here I am, and there isn't an infrastructure to help people. Like, why is it so hard for her to get daycare? Why is it so hard to maintain basic housing? Like, these are all questions that are like so obvious watching this woman try to do better. And then, like, it's so easy for people to say, well, why don't you get a better job? Why don't you try harder? Get an education? How? What am I supposed to do? Like, I have this job with no flexibility. I need this money. I can barely pay my bills. Who's going to watch my kids? And no one's trying to help me.
Well, and it's just also, she at least has the privilege of being able to do some maneuvering. Because even in this specific scenario where during the transit strikes, there are people that are affected. There are people out there that are affected much worse than she is.
Right. And then, like, I really narrowed in on this idea of, like, she works as a maid, and she's clearly, like, educated and skilled for different work. So it's like, she's doing this job. She seems to have done a good job because she's kind of like the main maid, like the lead.
She's the head chambermaid.
That.
Yeah.
So, but it's also like, do we not want people to do other things and grow and progress?
That's the thing, they don't.
But it's like they don't. Like, even if you have a higher level position, it's like the minute you say I'm moving on or I'm looking for other things, it's like people cut you off, right? Mm-hmm. They immediately like cancel your security badge, or they tell you like, go ahead and stop working, we'll just pay you for the 2 weeks. It's like we're punished for trying to do better. Mm-hmm. So even for those of us who can more easily make those moves, we're still punished. Mm-hmm. And then for someone in her position, it's like, do they really expect you to just be like tied to this job that's kind of a dead end?
Oh, they do. I remember working as a college student for a terrible corporation, a retail corporation, and towards the end, when I had another job lined up, I was probably a little more loose with things, and they were like, "We can tell your heart's not in this." No, it's not. It never was. Like I went to school to get a degree, so I don't have to keep faking this.
I felt a lot of things watching this, which is always a good sign.
Same, yeah.
And I think the ending is good because, we get that false ending where it's like, she didn't get the job. What is she going to do? And then when that feeling of like when you want something and you get it, even though it's not the perfect thing, it's like better and what you need.
But just the work you put in to get to even that stage.
Yeah, and the fact that she gets emotional, it's just it's a really finely done story to tell something that we can all relate to. Like, it's pretty basic, but it's done in a very good way.
But I think, yeah, again, the French, well, the Dardenne brothers, I think, are experts at that, and it reminds me of 2 Days, One Night with Marion Cotillard, or Stéphane Brise's The Measure of a Man, Brise, who often kind of is working with people in this capacity. There's a Hungarian film from 2018 that Full Time really reminded me a lot of, by Sofia Zilogi, called One Day, which is also set over the one day of a woman trying to make ends meet with under kind of impossible but normalized conditions. But yeah, no, I liked how it looked. Victor Seguin, who recently shot Gagarine and Blue Jean, just all around kind of a breakout hit of the year.
What would you give it?
3.5 out of 5.
I would give it 4 out of 5. Do you have anything else?
No.
Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.